Take a walk in the deep end, talk like a V10, foot to the floor. When I take to the court, serve like I mean it. Top seeded, never conceded. Still crack up when their skills are egregious. That's outrageous, just tasteless. Take out the trash plus call up the cleaners. Speeches leaving them speechless. Minister teaching seniors, keynote speakers taking notes for the season. Team leaders are sneaking a peek when I'm preaching. Not a deacon, I'm a mic man. I'm on the right track, so I don't need Jesus. That's just facetious, performance peaking. I'll be alright, fam.
Mike.
Hey, it's blending in. Oh, and we are live. Podcast number 4. Joining us today is the man, the myth, the legend. In my opinion, the best fight photographer we have in Australia. Mr. William Luu.
All right. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for coming in.
It's an honor being your 4th guest on the podcast. I've been looking forward to it for a while now.
Yeah, well, even when this podcast was in its inception phase, I remember asking you, that was over a year ago. I said, I'm getting a podcast together. I want you to be on. I was very keen for you to be one of my first guests, and we've made it happen. And
awesome, man.
You made it here without the coronavirus. That's great.
I travelled across town to... I'm pretty sure we're in the same time zone.
Yeah, people freak out when they actually realise how far I live
Yeah.
from everyone else. Have you had to fight anyone for toilet paper?
Not yet, so that way back. I don't know. We'll see about that.
That's actually a good idea for you as a fight photographer.
Yeah.
Hang out at Woolies and take photos of people fighting out of toilet paper.
Yeah, it could be, but I'm big fact, I'm a germaphobe.
Are you?
Every show I go to, I have wet wipes with me, anti wet wipes cream. So
that's what all.
I don't really want to fight someone who hasn't been health checked, blood tested, and all that stuff, because who knows what they're carrying.
Oh. Yeah, you're right there. So that's where all the hand pump sanitizer and stuff's going in.
all the time, man. There's always one in my car, in my backpack at home. I'm wiping down myself, my camera. There was that one stage where I kept getting breakouts on my skin. I'm thinking, why is that? I keep showering, and then I realized my camera's ring slide all the time. Okay, like blood, sweat, all that stuff flies up to you. Let's not say it's death now. All that stuff flies on towards you, ringworms, and you never wash it. What do you do? You just put it back into your backpack and bag, leave it for the next show. And that germ builds up, and then one day I started cleaning it, and I'm like, man, there's so much shit on here. And yeah, so quick tip.
Clean
yourself,
kids.
Man.
Clean your cameras,
after every show,
kids.
go shower, disinfect yourself, wash your gear, wash your belt, wash your gloves, be safe.
Yeah. And if you remember that jiu-jitsu myth, have you heard of that? If you don't wash your gear because it loses powers.
Something like that, yeah. The belt. But
People don't wash
think
their
about
belts.
the belts. I heard this from a partner. You don't wash your belt because you want to kill what do you call it?
The key.
The gi, the power, but your belt gets as much dirt as your gis and your rashes. And the fact that you don't wash it, the fact that you don't wash it, it's just going to build up moisture on your back, and every time you bring it out, it's going to get more and more dirty.
I don't know how true it is, but I was reading somewhere on an online blog that that's how they got the black belt back in the day, because you would just wear the belt soft and it would get dirty.
I'm not surprised, man.
Yeah, that could be absolute bullshit.
It's like what they say about the black belt. He's a white belt, never quits washing his belt. Or not washing his belt, so it turns black over years.
That's pretty much what I heard, but I don't know how true it is. Now, for all our guests out there who do not know who you are, which they must be living under a rock if they don't, or they do not attend fights or look at any photos of any fights that are in
There's a few out there.
Melbourne or anywhere in Australia, tell us a little about what you do.
My business is WL Fight Photography. That stands for William Luu Fight Photography. It was a name I came up with when I was 21, and I just stuck with it.
It was a hard come up with?
Well, it started off just being fight photography, but that was taken, so I just put my name there, and it just built from there. And slowly, I began to connect more with my brand, more with my audience, more with my work, and that's where I am now. So I've always done martial arts since my late teens. It was a way to get fit, also get confidence, and I was still competing back then. So my competition days was between 2009 to 2012. So like my champions for the UFC is always going to be GSP, Randy Couture, BJ Penn, Silva. Those are my guys.
The old
guys.
Yeah.
So like I was training around those times when it was still sort of style versus style, whereas now, man, you gotta do the whole lot.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. I don't know how far back you've gone to watch them, but Do you remember the 10 cabinet days and stuff like that? Or
Oh yeah, I did, man.
when it was really, really raw. Now, you mentioned that you do martial arts.
Yeah,
Now, what do you train?
I train the whole lot. I train in BJJ, mixed martial arts, Thai boxing, wrestling. I've actually had more mixed martial arts fights than I have in Thai boxing. Which is funny.
You've competed.
Which is funny, yeah.
Wow.
Which is funny because I'm known as a Muay Thai guy, but I've had more experience in MMA. I've had 3 fights in mixed martial arts, all by submissions. And there's a fun fact: I may have been the first person to pull up the TP in MMA fight, but it wasn't in the cage. I was fighting during the time when it was just in a ring. They were calling
So
it.
you bet someone to it.
Have a look, man. August 2010.
We'll look it up. August 2010, first TP submission. Yep. I wouldn't know where to start to do that submission. So obviously you've got the martial arts background. That's something that's in your roots. It's embedded in you. And there's clearly a passion for photography. So was a photography something that came in later in your life, or?
Almost the same time. I think I was in my 2nd year into training mixed martial arts, competing. Had an injury where someone did a really bad takedown, injured my leg, couldn't walk for a week, and then there was a camera at home. I picked it up and just began playing with it. And people, when they get injured from a gym, they often drop out, but I still wanted to go every day to learn techniques and at the same time learn my craft. So I was never trained formally in photography. So I learned on the go, learned my mistakes, and luckily at the time I was still young, so I was able to make mistakes, learn on the way. And my first show I went to was the Ultimate show. So I snuck in with my gym because we had guys fighting at the time. So I kept bugging my coaches, Dennis Kelly and Philip Lai from Team Nemesis at the time, saying, "Oh, please give me a pass, let me come to your corner." And then began shooting our guys, eventually got to the biggest shows from there.
Okay, so your passion actually derived from adversity. You couldn't train, you couldn't be in the gym.
Pretty much. It was my way of giving back to the sport. It was my way of combining my passions. It started as a hobby, showcasing what I could do, and I was trying to replicate what I saw was out there at the time, which wasn't much.
Yeah.
And yeah, slowly got bigger and bigger. And
that's where you and I are very similar. Although we're not directly in the cage or fighting or anything like that, we've both found our little niche for involvement. You yourself, you do photography, you train a bit. And I never had what it took to become a pro fighter. I didn't have the dedication. I'm quite aware of that. So I found my way in through Fight Kingdom, through making apparel, making gear, making shirts for the guys. And that's why I've always been a big fan of your work. You're very passionate like me. And it's anyone who knows the industry, anyone who's watching out here right now, you'll know it's not a big money industry.
No. If you're doing it for the money, same as promoters, you won't last very long. You need that passion. I tell everybody, you need the same passion you have for an amateur fight with headgear and pads on as you do for a world-class fight like at the UFC. You need that passion to keep you going when you're shooting a show at midnight or 1 a.m. You still need to keep pushing and keep producing good work, then stay loyal to your art.
Yeah, there's this one photo of you. Someone actually took a photo of you for once.
Yeah.
I think it was after you did a double of Roots and then a Rebellion.
Yeah. And
you just had veins popping out of your arm.
That explains why my forearms are a bit, weirdly sized. Holding a camera, I think it's about 5 kilograms. Holding that, running around for 6 hours, 7 hours straight, constant focus. You get worn afterwards too. And the older you get, the more your body feels it after each show.
Is your gear hit?
Yeah, it's heavy, man.
Yeah?
Yeah. 5 kilograms, I reckon.
And you're constantly
holding it tight, making sure no one nicks it at shows, running around with it. Sometimes bringing it to the bathroom, but then I'm always cleaning it afterwards too.
Is it hard to keep it stable? Or?
Well, that's the main thing. Whenever I go to a cage show or a ring show, I do my little routine, which is going around a ring or cage, sussing out my spots, picking a spot, making friends with people around me. So shit happens, I've got people to back me. And also, I like to be friends with everybody, saying hi to everyone. I find my spot, make sure I'm comfortable there because I rarely leave my spot when I'm shooting. And that's it, man. I make sure I'm comfortable. I'm able to work there for 6-7 hours and I'm good to go.
Yeah, your ability to take an amazing fight photo, it's always intrigued me. It's intrigued me to the point where I had to have you here. So, tell me, what goes into a good shot? Obviously, you've got the passion for fighting, you've got the knowledge of fighting, you've got the passion for photography, you've got the knowledge of photography, and they all intertwine. But how do you get that perfect head kick shot or the knockout shot, or the instant where the punches landed? Do all these things come into play?
It all comes into play. I'll think about that in my mind every time. But like, as the saying goes, there's no good or bad thing. It's just up to your perspective. A head kick's good if it's someone you like landing it. It's a bad head kick if it's your mate getting head kicked and knocked out. So I'm always very cautious of what I do. Obviously, with training martial arts, teaching martial arts, you know what's a high-level technique. You know what's a high-scoring technique as opposed to something very low-level. So for example, you get people taking pictures of fights for the first time and they snap away thousands of photos in the first round, when generally the first rounds, they're feeling each other out. Like for my photos, I rarely put up feelers. So a jab that's not going to touch you, I wouldn't put it up. Or a jab that hits you, it's a low-scoring move, I wouldn't do it. Same for low kicks. I try and go for hard techniques, and I get to read the fighters sometimes. If they land a nice body kick and I can see them, can see the pivots, I can see the way the kick lands on the ribs, I can see the ripple, then I can tell that might work. But obviously, if they're wearing headgear and shin pads, it's a bit trickier. So with practice and practice, you eventually get there. And like my first few shows, I didn't jump onto the big shows right away. I did maybe a year of doing amateur shows, novice shows. Guys were wearing headgear, shin pads, sometimes T-shirts. Technique went out the window. I was lucky to get maybe one good technique out of that whole fight. I knew what to look out for. So I think it was me putting those time in, doing those low-level shows. Eventually, when I got to the pro shows, my timing got a bit better.
Yeah, it's like that. What was it, the picture? It goes, if you haven't worked here, it's in a sports stadium.
I saw that, man. And I'm like,
don't expect to work here.
Exactly.
And it's got the UFC.
Yeah. And that hit home hard. I share it every now and then, let people know that I didn't just say to the guys, hey, can you please put me on the spot at the UFC? I'm going to do some work for you. I even do it for free. I mean, everyone can do work for free. Everyone can pick up a camera, but what can you offer the promotions, the promoters, the fighters, man? What makes you stand out too?
Yeah, well, so you mentioned that you've done the UFC. I've been at a lot of the fights, a lot of the shows where you've actually been the main photographer. Is there sometimes two guys doing it? Or?
Sometimes two. Ideally, if I was running my own show, I'd love to have two guys, one guy backstage, one guy on another side, capturing angles. But at the moment, it's just me doing the whole thing, doing the rounds, running back and forth.
Who does the photos of you taking photos?
Fans sometimes, or random people. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes.
They catch me sometimes. There's a picture of me. I don't know if you posted that one. Maybe Wayne did. Me smiling. That was me smiling at a technique being performed. Like, I'm still a fanboy at heart. I might be shooting, but I'm still thinking about what tactics they could use and how they could get a better position.
Yeah, that's the purest coming out of you.
I think so.
Yeah. Now, there's a list of absolute cracking top end shows that I'm a major supporter of local shows.
It's local, man. That's where we all start.
Yeah, we wouldn't have the superstars in mixed martial arts or kickboxing. We do if we didn't have these local shows. And you've worked on shows. Let me get out this giant list. Path to Hex, Power Play, Rebellion, Roots, Warriors Way, Kings of Combat, Eternal, Boa, Dynamite, Hardcore, Tag Team, A1, Alpha, Night of Mayhem, and the creme de la creme you worked at the UFC. Now, this is going grassroots all the way up to the very top.
And I still had much fun doing grassroots shows as I do doing the pro shows. I mean, I think that's just the fanboy in me, man. Wanting to see good technique. When I see grassroots fights, I'm thinking about me when I first jumped over the ropes, the nervousness and the pressure I had on me. Watching the pros, I'm thinking, man, if everyone kept training, you'll get there eventually too.
Yeah, well, some of the best fights I've seen have been at Ami shows.
100%, man. 100%.
Like, one of my good friends and one of our sponsored athletes, Corey Reeves, he's had a fucking war. And I remember at the end of the night, we were all just like, what the fuck was that?
I saw a few of his fights. It's pretty damn
What
decent.
the fuck was that? How is this an Emmy show? Like, I've been to, UFC events where I've seen less.
And the thing is,
exciting.
they're training as hard or not harder than those pros, copying the same amount of punishment, damage
For nothing.
for little nothing.
Well, no, nothing. Let's not say nothing because it's unfair to say it's nothing. No financial gain.
Yes.
No financial gain, but that's why they build their tools. That's where they build their arsenal and, get the kinks out
Yep.
and get all the way to the top. But speaking of the top,
But it was funny actually working on a pro shows for so many years, being asked to do a Path to Hex show. I wasn't sure what to expect. From the first fight to the last fight, guys were going at it. Like you said, you're not having any financial gain. You're fighting for yourself. You're fighting for your gyms. You're fighting for your friends. You go all out from first round to the last round. You're not getting a big paycheck, to take a dive. You're actually fighting for your name.
yeah, well, it is that's literally the closest they have of a gladiator situation.
Pretty
Like,
much.
You're fighting, like you said, for your gym, for your honor. You get a medal at the end of the day, but it's not for that. It's the purest form of grassroots.
Yeah.
Purest form. And then as they get better, they move up and they become more talented fighters. They become more entertaining, more well known. They start getting financial gain.
100%. And I think for me, I've always got a soft spot for grassroots because I've had a handful of grassroots MMA and Muay Thai fights, and I understand the pressure that goes through the mind. I'm not feeling well. My arm's a bit sore. My opponent looks a lot bigger than me. My opponent's 30 or whatever. And it's really nice to capture. When I was fighting, there was no one doing that for me. So it's my way to give back to the people as well.
Did you feel nerves before your fights?
100%, man.
Yeah.
If you watch my old fight videos, you'd see me always holding on.
I'd love to.
It's on there. Watch that TP video. It's always me holding onto the ropes really tightly because if I wasn't, I'd be shaking like crazy.
Man.
Yeah, but that's just
Where
me.
are they?
They're on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually stalked you on YouTube before you came.
Where did you find them?
I saw your channel, but I didn't see those.
I think my good mate Sai found some of my old guitar videos from my high school, my old garage band. But that's pretty hidden now. You can't see that.
Sai's a funny guy, isn't he?
Yeah, funny, charismatic, charming, the whole package.
Oh, look at that. A bit of bromance there for Sai. I love his shows.
We go way back. I'll give you an example. The first time I did a pro show was his first Rebellion show. I was still quite young at the time. I think I was 20, 21. That was one of my first gigs, first paid gigs, and I didn't know what to do. I was wearing a singlet. I was wearing short shorts. I borrowed a camera. I was running in and out of the ring. I had no idea what to do. And fortunately enough, he took a chance on me. And ever since then, we've been good mates and just worked together for all his projects and shows.
Did he start off with just Rebellion and Roots popped up later? Or?
Yeah, his idea was to do a purist Muay Thai show. So he started with Rebellion. Eventually, it got too big. There wasn't room for the grassroots fights. That's when a show called Road to Rebellion happened. Eventually, Road to Rebellion became like a rebellion because everyone began turning pro. There wasn't a show for the amateur scene anymore, so he created Roots. And I think it was he didn't do it overnight. After years of promotional experience, he was able to do 2 shows in one day. So Roots in the daytime and Rebellion at nighttime.
That must be
Starting, the show kicks off at 12 p.m. Sometimes the fights don't finish to 12 a.m. But the whole team, they're setting up 6 a.m., 5 a.m., getting the trucks ready, setting up the whole thing themselves, staying back till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., doing the whole thing.
Yeah,
you don't see that when you're a fan.
Yeah.
After the fight ends, they leave. But I feel it too. When I have friends watching the show, they might leave halfway in the show. I'm still there to the main event. I can't leave until the hands is being raised. And by then, everyone's gone, and I'm just by myself.
Yeah. Do you find crowds thin out?
To what?
Do they thin out, the crowds? Do you find? Because I know at MMA shows they do. Once they watch their mate, they...
That depends on the kind of show you go to and the way the cards are built. For example, some shows, they're built on ticket sellers. So those are the ones where fans come for the fighters. As soon as their fight's done, they leave. So sometimes the main event, it's so good. Whereas other shows, it's made by matchups. And so the fights get more exciting as you go on to the main events.
Okay.
And you're there to watch an actual display of Muay Thai or mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I've been to both those kind of shows. And
Yeah.
like, you just look around and there's a cracking fight, amazing fight happening on.
No one's
Where
there.
the fuck did everyone go?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Would you what would you say would be one of your favorite fights, your most memorable fights? Because you've seen thousands, right?
I think so. I lose count sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm probably putting you on the spot a little bit here. But
Just on the spot, from memory, the Adesanya fight was versus Whitaker at the UFC. It was a big fight for Australia and New Zealand. I felt a bit of pressure to do my part for all my fans, all my friends, to let them know that.
so you actually took photos of that fight.
I did. I wanted to make sure I was able to capture the fight my way, but also represent the fight accurately. And I think it went pretty well.
It did. It was.
I wasn't
It went good for Adesanya, but not, not for us.
I was pretty chilled though. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. That was years of doing small shows.
How do you, yeah, let's
Yeah,
get back
sure.
to that. I kind of I was going to touch on that, and then we got sidetracked.
Yeah.
How do you get into the UFC? That's obviously the pinnacle.
Yeah.
For any sort of fight fan at the moment, whether it be coaching there, fighting there, being any sort of involvement, it's the pinnacle.
Yeah.
How do you get involved?
It doesn't happen overnight.
Huh?
It doesn't happen
Is it a
overnight.
phone call? Or is it like, hey, look at my work, I'm great?
Everyone's great. Everyone's got phone calls. Everyone's got emails and whatnot. It was because I was affiliated with the media outlet at the time, Fight News Australia. So I was able to do work with them, supporting them with images whenever they're posting results. And eventually they had a pass to get to the UFC. And because I had no formal training in photography, I'm not affiliated with any news outlet like The Age or Howard Sun. So oftentimes you'll get bumped if someone like them comes around and be like, I want a spot at the cage. But luckily I was able to secure a spot for me there and it was all fine. I was able to do my thing. It was very smooth. But I learned from all my mistakes doing smaller shows through the cage, made them there. So by the time the UFC happened, it was smooth sailing.
So you basically need a media pass.
Pretty much.
And to get that media pass, you need an affiliate,
Yes.
someone who's okay. And they're not just going to let any Tom, Dick, and Harry with a camera jump up in there.
Honestly, everyone can take a fight photo. That's me being
No, they
truthful.
can't.
That's me being truthful. But the ability
No, they
to
can't.
keep doing it show after show and capturing the same results, I think that's where
There's a
different.
million things that I can point out. Like, no disrespect. I know there's a lot of guys out there that are fine tuning their art. You know, just as you probably did at the start.
100%.
Your work wasn't as great as it is now. And there's guys out there that are, you know, fine tuning their guys and girls. You know, taking fight photos, getting better, and big up to them. You know, I look forward to seeing them grow and become, you know, a high level photographer. But there's some things about your photos, like, it's just always the right time, and there's the angle, there's the emotion in that photo. There's, you know, you feel it. It's not just a press of a button. I can see you.
And
feel
I feel
it.
like training, being actively involved in training, helps out a lot too. Oftentimes I train pretty hard during the week leading up to a show just to get into the right mindset. I'm currently training. I'm still at the same gym I trained with 10 years ago at Team Nemesis. We're called the Australian Combat Sports Academy now. So we have Annie and Midi fighting MMA now. So I've been involved in the fight camps a few times and really gets me into the mindset of being a fighter, really helps me with timing. This gets me in the zone. Because if I was an outsider coming in, this isn't the right way, this is just my way of doing it, I'll lose that connection, I'll lose that touch. You need that level of respect coming to a fight show. You can't just come in. I've seen shows where photographers come in, shove the camera into your face when you've lost. That's the last thing you want to do, man, especially your first fight or 10th fight, really. You don't want someone gaining from your loss.
So
I'm really respectful
there's
for that.
there's a bit of morality to it.
100%.
So and a respect,
Yes.
obviously, because you're a martial
And you
artist.
get that from the martial arts too.
You don't want to capitalize on someone's pain.
Well, we'll give you an example. Someone gets head kicked and knocked out. Most people go for the knockout right away, whereas me, that's the last thing I want to do. I want to give them space. If I do get the knockout, it's always in context. There's the winner, there's the person who's fallen. I'm getting the whole story. I never focused on the loser. I never focused on a nut shot. That's just my personal rules.
That's actually really interesting. I've never ever seen you take a photo of someone.
Have a look, man. No, it's always in context.
I've seen a mouth guard that's on the ground.
Yeah, that was different. You couldn't see the face.
That was one of my favorite photos too, man.
I mean, generally, the way I'm thinking about it, I wouldn't want to see a picture of me knocked out on the floor that's got 1,000 likes.
No, because you immortalize that moment.
Yes.
That you capture it. That's a big deal for the fighter, the opponent, people who were there, because we see it, we experience it, we feel it. Then you capture it and allow us to revisit it, and you're vividly. You
can be gaining off that too, and because the people who do it often they come and go. They're not really involved in the sport, whereas I'm seeing them every week. You get a connection with fighters, you become friends with them, and gyms. The last thing you want to do is, make them look bad one week and then trying to suck up to them understanding too. It's like, I'm here not to make you look bad, not to make you look good, but I'm here to accurately capture what's happening that night.
Here's a stupid new question
from someone
who's my wife is a pretty good photographer. She
might be better than me, man.
Probably not, but let's just say, baby, you're much better than.
Yeah. Say what you need to say.
But I have no idea, obviously. And here's my new question: how the fuck do you take a photo through the cage, and the cage doesn't appear? It doesn't.
Trial and error, man.
Yeah.
My first few cage shots.
Because your lens won't fit through the gap in the hole.
You just got to frame it, and hopefully the action happens where it is. And the hard thing about shooting mixed martial art is most cages, it's very big. Striking, it's all over the place. You get guys coming from a K1 background, kickboxing, boxing, kyokushin, Muay Thai. Thai boxing, to me, it's a lot easier because there's a certain dance, a certain rhythm to it. Mixed martial arts, it's unpredictable. You've got to really learn the fighter. Sometimes I even go back and watch tapes and see how to fight and see how the styles match up. So I'm sort of picturing in my head, making my own predictions, and then hopefully they fall through that little gap and I'm going to capture it there. So it's trial and error. That's always blown my mind how that happens. I've missed a lot of shots getting the cage in the way, but luckily, you learn. Yeah, I'd say one of the good things is you don't get guys falling on top of you, which has happened before, or guys smacking you, falling backwards. There is that protection there, so that's pretty nice. Yeah. Yeah, obviously, anything in a ring, you got a lot more room to. 100%. Yeah. If you look at my Instagram or my YouTube, you'll see a fighter falling over the ropes and falling onto me. Wouldn't be the first time it's happened before. Do you get blood on you? Yeah. Yeah. When I was younger, I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I'm so close to the action. Got blood, got sweat, cool. But the older you get, you want to wipe yourself down. You're trying to steer away from the blood. The S word, staph. I don't want any of that stuff. Yeah, it's all. Yeah, man. It's an unfortunate part of our industry. People get knocked out. Blood goes everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. Well. Wash yourself after every show, clean yourself, shower, disinfect yourself. You really are. I am. I make friends with the doctor, making sure that he's got a spare kit for me. Yeah. Did you fight pro or amateur? Semi-pro. I was fighting headshots and no shin pads. I'd say it's about pro. Yeah. Okay, so you did MMA. Yeah. Pretty much pro. So I won my MMA fights by submission. I had one kickboxing fight and a handful of padded fights in Muay Thai, grappling, and also MMA. So I've been training and fighting out of the same gym from the start till now, Australian Combat Sports Academy. My MMA coach and BJJ coach is Dennis Kelly, and my Thai boxing coach is Philip Lai. Does Dennis run an AMI sort of show? Yeah, he's up to his third Bushido show now. Bushido, that's it. It's a novice grass level show. Everyone's padded. No headshots, body shots allowed, kicks allowed, no head strikes, which is a great way. It's what we needed back then.
Can anyone go in?
Anyone can go in as long as you haven't fought pro.
Okay.
So-
Is there any super heavyweights?
I'll talk to the boys. We'll make something happen.
Awesome. 'Cause
Anything can happen, man.
I don't want to damage this.
We've had experience. Like, I was one of the first fighters under Dennis's wing, so he was the one that taught me fighting. He was the one that got me into the mindset and the whole lot. So back then, when we were fighting, we weren't allowed to fight in a cage. We were fighting in a ring. We were sometimes comical fights of the night, like out of a 10-fight cut of kickboxing, where that random MMA fight, they'll call it cage fighting, no holds barred, no rules, the lot. So we would have to drive across town to the country to fight back then too. So it's really good what they're doing now.
So you've been involved since the days where we were considered human cockfighters.
Just after that time, but
Just after that? Yeah, because
I mean,
we couldn't use a cage in Victoria.
I tell these guys, they're having it so easy. When I was living in the western suburbs at the time, there was barely any mixed martial arts gyms. When there were, they were pretty much just karate gyms calling themselves MMA and saying, we teach karate, kung fu, Taibo, so we're technically mixed martial arts. It's not till you get there that you realize, hang on a second, where's the submissions? Where's the ground and pound?
Yeah.
And then, so I was very lucky to find Dennis and Phil when they were first starting up too.
They were MMA gyms were a dime a dozen.
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu gyms were a dime a dozen too back then.
Yeah.
I remember when I'm like, all right, I'm going to learn jits. It took me fucking forever to find somebody. And eventually it was JD up at Extreme, like in Chaston.
Yeah.
But now, I can throw 50-cent coins out the door and hit 10 gyms. Like, they're everywhere. And the guys in this era won't understand that.
No, man.
Like, it's completely different.
I mean, the guys before me can say the same thing too, but from my experience, where I was at the time, it was about a 20-minute drive to do MMA with Dennis and Phil, and that was only 4 times a week, maybe an hour each session. And they were doing it after the hours, after their full-time work, after their own training, coming to another gym, renting out space, training from 8 till 9 most nights. That's how it was. There wasn't any full-time MMA gyms. Now, where I'm staying, there's gyms like Absolute, Renegade, Ring Gym, you name it, man. Every suburb, there's always a gym there.
There's 100 of them.
Yeah.
And speaking, you were mentioning there's the guys before you. I was listening to Si's podcast.
Yeah.
And he had Mark Hammer on. And he was telling old school stories.
That's going way back.
Yeah, way back. Like, and I'm like, both kickboxing, MMA, Muay Thai, we've come so far. And anyone who's experiencing it today, we're extremely lucky.
I mean, look at mixed martial arts. It's gone mainstream. You say Conor, Khabib, almost everyone knows what they are, what they do.
Yeah.
5-6 years ago, man.
And people thought I was weird for watching it.
Oh, 100%.
They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm playing UFC game. Oh, you're a savage. You're this, you're that. That's not even real fighting.
And now everyone's saying to you, oh, Murat, did you see the fight last week? Which fight? There's plenty of them. Yeah. Oh, the fight when someone got knocked out.
I love that. We call them casual fans, but they're the ones that actually keep the sport going. Because us hardcores, we watch it no matter what. But the casual fans, the fans,
you need them to.
They're the ones that bring in the money. It's always going to be the case. Like, they're the ones that buy the pay-per-views. They're the ones that allow these promotions to make the big money and grow as a sport. But so you were there for the first cage show in Victoria.
Yes, I was very lucky to be brought onto Hex on the first show when the cage was finally legalized in Victoria. So I was right.
We were the last ones, right? Victoria.
I thought it was Perth. I'm not sure.
I thought we were the last ones.
I remember guys going to Sydney to fight because you could fight in the cage there. But I
flew there to watch the first UFC.
Yeah, I know that one, 2010.
Yeah,
that was a big one.
Who was the main event? My friends actually gave me so much shit.
I don't think they were local talent. I think
Vanderlei and Bisping.
I think you're right. I remember at the time there was Carl Noak, George Soteropoulos.
The Hippo. Anthony
And
Perosh.
Perosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was our stars back then, back in the day.
Yeah.
Now you can have a card full of local talent from Australia, New Zealand.
Well,
Well, you look at the last one in Melbourne.
we got superstars now.
Yeah, man.
It's changed. So coming back to what you were saying, you were actually at the first event where they had a cage in Victoria.
Yeah, it was quite surreal. For me, I was thinking, man, the guys training after this, they're so lucky to be able to train in a cage, to be like the UFC stars. No more fighting in the ring, no more fighting, underground. So I was right there when the door was open and the ribbon was unveiled. So it was very cool. And one of my training partners at the time, well, still now, Ryan Barry, he actually was the first fight when the cage was legalized, and he won by a nice TKO. So that was a pretty good moment.
Well, it made it safer because you don't have guys fucking flying out of the ring.
100%. I think the last time that happened was Gustavo's opponent fell from the ring, knocked his head on a bottle of water, and that was called a DQ.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't go to any local MMA events when they first started. Like, I was oblivious to them because they weren't marketed well.
Yeah.
They're not marketed the way they are.
It was, at the time, it was like a freak show. It's like, come watch some boxing, but hey, there's going to be a cage fight, and watch that too.
Yeah.
So, and it was hard because there weren't that many gyms to compete against too. So sometimes you wouldn't have a nice stylistic matchup. Sometimes it's a real technical mixed martial arts fighter fighting a brawler that can just throw overhands. And the judges too. You might get the same boxing judges, kickboxing judges judge MMA fights, which would only look for striking techniques and wouldn't know a thing when it happened to be on the ground. So I think it's changed for the better now.
Are there any fighters that you took photos of when they were first starting off and now they've gone all the way to the top?
Jake Matthews. I remember being fighting on the same shows as he was back in the novice days.
Yeah.
Seeing a 16-year-old Jake Matthews killing the ranks, beating grown men, and eventually getting that title shot. And I keep telling everyone that didn't happen overnight. He put in his time.
He fought on Night of Mayhem and stuff as well, yeah. Local shows.
Before that too. So he fought all the local talent at the time. Callan Potter. That's all I remember now. But yeah, he put in his time. He didn't just get a contract out of the blue.
Yeah, they all work. People don't understand how hard it is to get that ticket to the UFC.
And he was one of the first two coming onto the house, and then being one of the first new Aussies to showcase Australian MMA.
How long has he been in there? I think it's like 9 years now. So.
I think so. Yeah.
He's a young vet.
There was a post I made on my Instagram. It showed a babyface Jake Matthews. I think he was maybe 17, 18 at the time, and one of him right now. So you see a babyface Justin Bieber into like a grown man now with a full beard.
Another one of your... I'm not sure how close you are or friends, or one of my favourite videographers, Tom Galco.
He's all right.
Is he?
Yeah.
I've heard things about him.
He's all right.
Yeah.
He hassles me a bit, but
Does he?
he's all right. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's all right.
He makes good video, and that's another aspect I love about.
We complement each other really well. So we
Are
actually...
you at the same shows a lot? Or?
Yeah, we're actually good mates. So we work very
you?
closely with Sai. I say what I need to say. Because he lets me borrow the GoPro. So if you see my behind the scenes actions, the GoPro, that's his GoPro that I've kept for maybe a year now. But
so it's your pro now.
pretty much my pro. We started we're same age. He started fighting at the same time as me. He's had more fights than me, but like myself, he got into sport, got into his field of work by training and just adding his hobby into his training, and eventually took off.
He's a Muay Thai guy, yeah?
No, I would say he's a fight sports fan because he does boxing, does kickboxing, does Muay Thai. He's done MMA before. He travels, I forget where he goes to, I think Jordan, to do some mixed martial arts shows. But he's been around sport too.
That Brave show?
I think so, yeah, Brave.
Yeah,
He's fought in mixed martial arts too. So we complement each other really. Whenever I'm feeling dull, feeling boring, I need some inspiration. So I'm watching his videos, getting inspired,
he makes
seeing what he does.
Videos, man.
It's really emotional.
Like pins and needles videos.
Yes.
That's the kind of stuff he makes.
Really chilling videos. I think the way we see fights is very similar. We don't do the typical knockouts and blood splatter. No, we try to capture the artistic side of martial arts. We're trying to showcase martial arts through our point of view that fight fans would love, and also the general public. It's like, wow, I didn't know that's martial arts. People embracing each other after war, being so tense. You don't see that on the highlights. You just see someone getting knocked out, jumping on a cage and cheering. That's cool, but there's also the stuff behind the scenes
You don't
in
see
the locker
the
room.
breakdowns behind the scenes, the tears, the nerves,
100%.
the camaraderie. It's, you know, the thing I love the most about this game is the respect level, the camaraderie, and it's not violence. It's literally chess with our bodies.
It's like violent ballet.
Yeah. Like we saw on the weekend, Joanna Jen Jacek, she got fucked up.
Yeah.
But after all that shit talking and kicking the crap out of each other, they hugged it out.
And you see after each round, they tapped gloves, gave each other a nod and walked back. It's that mutual respect saying, yep, you got me, I got you, let's go again.
It's a rare breed that you can crack someone in the face and then have a laugh. And then even a training.
Yeah.
I watch the boys train and someone gets clipped hard and it's like, oh, nice.
Me and my mates have a word. We say, you need to be humbled. If someone feels a bit too over the top, he needs to get a bit humbled to realize what you're doing to someone at a lower level than you, someone else can do it to you too. So you always got to be in check and really stay in tune. You can't let your ego take over when you're training. Fighting, maybe, but then you always got to settle it after the fight. And that helps with the fighting too. Sometimes it helps the sales, the pay-per-view, but most people don't see the embrace afterwards.
Now you're going to be. I was a big wish of mine that you would end up doing this, and it happened. Or maybe I should have asked for something different, but my wish came true. You're going to take photos at Demolition.
Excited, man. I met Wayne at the last Bushido event. I heard from people that he lived very, very far away.
He does. He lives in space.
He drove down to watch our last Bushido event at the gym, and I was working as a referee and judge at the time.
Oh, you do that kind of stuff too?
I was kind of Dennis asked me, hey, Will, can you ref? I'm like, I can't say no. I'm going to do it. So I was doing that, and then I saw Wayne in the corner. I'm like, I want to introduce myself and say hi to him. So I was doing my thing, went over to him, said hi, told him who I was. He knew of me, and we just began talking. And he's doing great things for the sport, creating another amateur level entry for newbies in the sport. So we need that in the sport.
I can legitimately say he just loves the sport, man. And that's why I love being involved with this show. We're sponsoring the show. We've got a stall out there. So if you guys want to come grab some Fight Kingdom gear, we'll be out the front there as well. It's going to be an absolute cracker show. Some amazing fights have been put together. Your mate is going to be on there. Mitty the Pity, Annie Thatcher's.
She's a killer. I remember seeing those two girls and guys on the first session, and they never gave up. They kept pushing, had a handful of fights in grappling, novice level fights, and then now they're fighting on the big shows. And
my boy, Troy boy, motherfucking Fumo, he'll be fighting, defending his title there. Also, before I forget, big shout out, big fucking shout out to the Australian team that fought at the IMAFs. Troy brought home the gold, and my boy Corey Ridgy Didge Reeves got home the silver against a very, very tough opponent. Very proud. A lot of the other guys, a lot of the rest of the team brought home gold, silvers, bronzes. Very proud of the Australian team. Very lucky to have those boys involved with us as well. But we have, looking forward now, we have demo coming up. Any other shows you're working on?
In that same month, I've got Warriors Way put on by Mark the Hammer. It's going to be a showcase of Muay Thai shows, Muay Thai talents. And then in May, I've got Roots and Rebellion, 100% Muay Thai. So that's going to be a big, fun day and night.
It's one of those marathon sessions for you.
It is, man. But like I said, you got to be passionate about the sport. You got to love it to be able to do auto shows and still have the same passion from fight 1 to fight 100.
Yeah, well, it's a very good time for us as fight fans, not only as people involved in the industry or trying to make a living out of the industry. It's a great time. We've got a whole array of shows, got a whole array of styles, we've got a
100%.
million different fighters. I'm excited that we'll be at the same show. And we're really looking forward to that. That's going to be a cracking
Like I
night,
said,
guys.
we might need someone else taking photos. I can always give you my backup camera, show you the ropes. You can shoot alongside me and capture some backstage stuff.
I think I'll just stick to watching the fights. Well, thank you for coming on. It's been an absolute
My pleasure,
I've
man.
been really looking forward. We'll be doing a bit of work together now with Fight Kingdom, getting some photos, some photo shoots done. We are losing light in here. We got so caught up in this that we lost light. Maybe before we say goodbye, let's have some light.
Yeah, man.
There we go. You know it's a good show when you don't realise it's
Time flies.
All right, so guys, thank you for watching. Thank you to my wonderful guest, William, coming on. Plug your socials.
My Facebook page and website is WL Fight Photography, and you can find me on Insta at WL Fight Photography.
Fantastic. And we are Fight Kingdom. Find us on Facebook as Fight Kingdom, Instagram Fight Kingdom MMA, and website is at the back, www.fightkingdom.com. We are still looking for sponsors for the show.
Hit them up.
We want to do some upgrades, want to get a bit technical, maybe some actual lights so we don't get dark again next time. So if you are interested, product placement, we're getting really great reach at the moment, really great guests. We've got a whole bunch of guests lined up. Our next guest is going to be Joseph Luciano.
He actually fought many of my mates back then too.
Did he?
This was going back when he was 17. I think he fought 2 or 3 of my teammates, and back then Kimika was also very strong. Same gym as our mate Tom Gathicol.
Yeah, there's a good squad up there.
Yeah.
So he'll be in here. We'll talk about the Rich Franklin series.
One Super Series.
So he's doing good things over there, repping Australia, repping his gym. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Be a king. Follow the kingdom. Thanks guys.